Okay, welcome everybody. You're at the Detroit Writers Guild's International Women's Month reading that in some form or another. I've been doing this for quite a while, probably at some point in the 90s we've been doing this. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad Nancy's here. I'll talk about Nancy and Ashley when I introduce Ashley to you. So we've got 5 really great writers and poets to present to you today. And I'm just checking over here. So we're going to first hear from Zoka Joseph, who has a brand new book. And yeah, that's what I say. So I have these bios here that, because a lot of these poets may be new to some of the viewers and listeners, I want you to be aware of their history, because they've all done some great work. Zoka Joseph, her work is influenced by her Indian and B'nai Israel roots, Eastern and Western cultures. Her poems have appeared in Poetry Daily, Kenyon Review Online, Michigan Quarterly, in a fantastic award-winning book called Respect, the poets on Detroit music. That is just an incredible book. Everyone ought to have a copy on their desk, like the Bible. 101 Jewish poems for the millennium. Cheers Muse, contemporary work by Asian American. This is a great list of things. The 2 things to be highlighted for sure is her book, which is fantastic, The Sharp Blue Search of Flame on the Wayne State University Press, nominated for Pushcart and Penn Awards, and it's a wonderful book. And then she's just kind of followed up that collection with her new book, in Our Beautiful Bones, from May Apple Press, nominated for a Penn, which makes sense. Also nominated for a Forward Award. Am I right in that?
Yeah, it was both books were finalists for the Forward Indies.
Yeah, which is just incredible, really.
Yeah,
it's really
excited about it.
She was born in Mumbai and lived in Calcutta for most of her life. She now, though, lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan. She teaches creative writing workshops. She has an MFA from the University of Michigan, and you can find out more by just doing zokajoseph.com, and her name is by her photo. So let's welcome let's welcome Zoka Joseph.
Hi. Hello, everyone. So happy to be here. ML, thank you for honoring me, honoring all of us by inviting us for this wonderful and meaningful event. Not just a celebration of Women's History Month, but also to acknowledge and to be in solidarity with the people of Ukraine today. I'm so happy to see many poets I know, and I'm so happy to meet the poets that I have not met before. Ashley, an honor to read with you. And I'm just going to start with reading from the most recent book, In Our Beautiful Bones. This wonderful artwork was also done by a Ben Israel poet, artist called Siona Benjamin. You can look up her work. It's just fantastic. So it's an excerpt from one of her panels that she's allowed me to use for this book. I'm going to begin. I'm going to read 2 poems from In Our Beautiful Bones, and I'm going to switch to a couple of short poems from Sharp Blue Search of Flame, and then I'm going to end with In Our Beautiful Bones. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Oh, Can You See? Oh, say, can you see? Look into my eyes, America, how easy it is to dream in Technicolor. Oh, say white, say red, say blue, and every color. we who made and make you still. We have built your towers, your tracks, your bridges with our bones. From sea to shining sea, this is our home. Home is where the heart is. Yes, all the broken ones. We pick your fruit, sing Hosanna, build our hearts here. We bake bread that we break together. We give thanks for each grain. We feed the hungry, for we have known hunger. See this mouth, it sings peace in every language. Watch my face shine. It will light up your pavements, your alleys, your castles, your shacks, your thirsty fields like a harvest moon after blight and famine. And give back to us the dollars like shekels you have stolen forever. Study then the maps inside my eyes. See the world. Yes, feel my heartbeat. Touch my human skin. It is real. And see our scars. They are the same. Our scars, we carry them thick and ugly. We are no stranger to dust and ashes. Here is my war-torn hand. Here are my lips. Let me kiss your cheek. Where do we end? Where do we begin? When I say love, I mean you. When I say home, I mean you. When I say to you, we are so beautiful, do not turn away. Do not shatter America, America, for richer, for poorer. We are your beautiful bones. Your heart, your veins are made of us. Why are you afraid? Our blood is the same color. Our skin so easy to dissolve. Frail border between this world and the next. Oh, sing with me, sing with me. What is made one should not be pulled asunder. We who are embraced by sweet Lady Liberty, we who are made so beautiful, so varied, so new, so whole again inside the harbor of your arms, O America. We are you, do you not see? Do not lead us into darkness. Do not hate our gods, our children. Do not throw us into camps, prisons, ghettos. Do not smash your jackboots into us, but deliver yourself from that dagger, the dagger you can become. So that's my first poem. Thank you. The next poem I'm going to read is really to sort of connect us with what colonialism really is, the colonialism that is so global and what has affected so many countries and so many places, and America itself with its history of colonization, and in a way what's also going on in Russia and Ukraine, the sense of empire, the sense of entitlement and empire, and that you can just usurp people, erase people, and set up your own culture as the best and the most beautiful. So a little background on this, it's called Hunting White Tigers in Kipling Country. And for those of you who know Rudyard Kipling and his relationship with India and how he wrote about the white man's burden, there's another poem in this book where I refer to that. This poem is really about the huge nature and tiger reserve in Madhya Pradesh, which used to be royal land, the king of Sindhia, that particular area, and how there was this play between the British who were taking over India and how the Maharajas were trying to hold on to their property. But ultimately, it's the common folk and the animals that get slain. Hunting white tigers in Kipling Country, Madhya Pradesh, India. To the Indian kings, the royal shikaris, hunting came as naturally as ownership of kingdom. And the killing of tigers, especially 101 white tigers in one lifetime. May the gods preserve and keep the kingly race. The blood of tigers give long life and many sons, was considered auspicious. From father to son, son to father, the game rooms grew through the length of palaces modeled on Versailles, filled with striped and spotted belts and horned trophies, and sometimes one single black and white photograph of a grand old hunt stretched from wall to palace wall. Soon the Rajas invited white sahibs on shikar too, hoping manly camaraderie with the ruling race. Long live and cheers to the gin and tonic, the soft tones of sunlight on enormous verandas, the reshmi kebabs served by turbaned servants would buy them time, help spare their hunting grounds. With fanfare and guns, they would set out, but only after thousands of villagers set out at dawn, beat drums, combed bristling jungles till tigers leapt from cover and dashed madly towards the wall of elephants from whose backs the bejeweled rajas and sola-topied sahibs thundered a monsoon of bullets, felling every creature that fled toward them. Perhaps some birds escaped through the storm of dust, blood, and death roars. But to ensure continuance of blessing and bounty at the hands of mighty gods and the mightier British, oh, how the sun never set in those kingdoms. The hunt went on till 101 white tigers, maybe a few less Bengals, leopards, sloth bears, wild dog and cat, deer, hare, boar, antelope, and bison were dragged by loyal subjects. And who can name these humble natives, their children's children, their mortal terrors, who laid them side by side in a never-ending road? And what was the length of those sepia-tinted hunt room photographs? From sunrise to sunset. Turn your head from the wall on the east to the wall on the west. Inhale the mothball and brimstone smell. Witness the blood-blasted fur. Count each black and white stripe. Count every color. Count as they mark the mud with their sprawled bodies, drawn claws now sheathed, and become one long red carpet in the dust. Okay, thank you. I'm now going to switch to Sharp Blue Search of Flame. Both these books are very dear to me, as is Sparrows and Dust, that was published by Ridgeway Press. So proud of these books. And so pleased that my newest book has also been nominated for, is a finalist at the Forward Indies Book Award. So it helps a little bit, on this long, lonely journey in this journey of writing and publishing. So the first poem I'm going to read from you is a poem called Havan. You have heard me read it many times, but I want to read it again because I want to bring back this sense of how women in India are still struggling so much with the burden of so many things, and the least of all being all the oppression that they face on a daily basis. So Havan is a Hindi and a Sanskrit word for fire. It's also a word for sacrifice, where at every auspicious occasion, fire is lit and offerings are made. And there's a reflection on bright burning here. Havan. He got angrier. They lifted the blue plastic can from the kitchen floor. My hand haldi streaked. I cried out. I backed away. I ran toward the bedroom. The old lady held on to my sari pallo and pulled me hard. She was 70, but she was strong. I could see her beetle-stained teeth close to my face, jagged yellow bone, cage door opening, fingers like steel hinges, creaking, Krishna, 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 pay my dowry. Oh, Krishna, I have no children. Murmuring in the peepal trees, rain of thin glass, bangles breaking, mouth full, flood of kerosene, generous as love. Blue God flesh on fire like sindoor in my hair, easily caught like ghee and grain, eaten whole. Take it all. O witness, union divine, no holy Ganga water, no sweetness like jasmine or sandalwood, this burning, this flame eternal. Thank you. I'm now going to read a very short ghazal. Of course, many of you know Aga Shahid Ali made this form famous, and it's a great way to exercise some of these skills in a form. It's very short, but it's dedicated to Jyoti Singh, who was raped on a bus in Delhi and died of fatal injuries. The perpetrators were let off free for a very long time, and they would just boast that we'll continue to do this and nobody could stop us. And even the lawyers were boasting. And this little ghazal is called What Burns. Only 20% of girls are good. Hood them and tame them, or it's you they'll burn. What do you want? To be God, man, or beast? Your karma, your goddesses, your crosses burn. You say, smother them small in wombs or home. No food, books, or dowry, no bras to burn. Will mercy reign on the holy who pray, who say none but devils and rebels burn? Who will remember as we turn to ash? Poet, words are witness, make darkness burn. I'm going to read one more poem that I've rarely read, but it's very lyrical, and I just want to share it with you because it's also a celebration of us women. And it's called Child of Churning Water. My salty songs sound no different than the gulls. My shadow hovers. I see my mouth opening and closing in air as if calling. No words but breath escapes my throat. I hear the murmur of ocean. Who shall I be now? Where can I perch? My woman heart is bird of the sea and fish of the air, blood and dirt, leaf and light, child of churning water. My feet are whales. I shall dive deep, turn to kelp, turn to pearl. Tides speak history and planets read my palm. My breath is writ in water. See, now I am a leaf boat on the river Ganga, my clay lamp soul drifting on mist-hidden seas to shores only stars can know. And I'm going to read my last poem. Thank you. Last poem from In Our Beautiful Bones. And this is the last poem of the book. I have not read it in public before. I'm going to leave out a few parts because of time, but I wanted to end on a note, on a prayerful note. There's so many poems in this book that are about racism and colonialism and all kinds of anguish, but I kind of wanted to end with a way to sort of find a way to purify ourselves in some way, cleanse ourselves of these dark forces and emotions. So it's called Prayer, very simply. There are several sections of it that are from prayers from different religions, mainly connected to death or funeral prayers. But I'm going to read just a few because I want to end with the last few lines there. Prayer. Oh, dearly beloved, you walked upon this beautiful earth. We honor your footprints, your life, your last breath. We who never knew you, we always knew you. We will cover your body with flowers as we say your name, your holy name. We will light the match to light the branch that will set your funeral pyre on fire. who will shave their heads in the morning light, light a diya, and sail a leaf boat on the river Ganga. Om Shanti. We will say, Hail Mary, full of grace for you, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, a soul has risen, let perpetual light shine upon you. We will dig a grave for you, bow to the east, say Janaza for you, or elevate your station among those who are guided. One day, may the bullets, knives, nooses, knees, hands of hate, war, tyranny burst into roses. May all darkness that lives among us, inside us, around us, over us, bloom into jasmine. May pain be transformed into lilies, sweet scent, lifting us all to new light. Thank you so much.
Excellent job. Wow.
So grateful.
It's
Thank
just a perfect day to, hear you read those poems. It just hit me that way. Next, we're going to thank you. And you can also, those books are available, through Amazon or BookBeat. I'm sure carries the stuff. So next is, of course, I'm looking for my my wonderful write-up I did, and I can't find it, so I have to wing this one. Emerson Lee is a student at Wayne State University. She's a really wonderful poet, and this year she is the editor of the Wayne Literary Review, which, I don't want to put any pressure on her, but it's just one step away from the Harvard Law Review. So it's a pretty prestigious publication that's been around. It's not true, but it has been around since the early 50s at Wayne State University. I guess that's when someone first said, I think I'm going to write a poem. And then the other person said, but where can we publish it? And then the other person went to the Wayne State administration and got money. But anyway, it's been around that long, and she's doing the 2022 version of it, and it's going to be an excellent collection. She's really kind of established herself in the English department in various creative writing classes and workshops, and like a fine cream, she has risen to the top from those people. So please welcome Emerson Lee.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Thank you also for inviting me to read today. A huge honor. And also thank you to Zilka. I really enjoyed your poetry. Mine is not quite as deep as yours, but I have 3 poems today to share with everybody from my upcoming poetry book that should be released sometime later this year or next year. So the first one is called Samsara. It's kind of like a past life talking to a present life. And I just chose Vincent van Gogh because I really like him. But yeah, so this is Samsara. I lived in a field of wheat. I lived in a red barn, in the bonfire and in the wind. The sadness will never end. My aged hands splattered in paint guide my new self's small fingers along a page. Please love something other than painting, I whisper as she writes what she cannot see in our letters to each other. I feel myself converging when we paint with words in our minds together between the same lines I made alone before her time. The sadness will last forever. I feel everything constricting the flow of blood to my brain when I think of a woman's touch, her fingers caressing every part of my human vessel. She unravels my brain and twirls it around her fork. The brain has no nerve endings. I can't feel myself become an ape. As she slurps me away, the sadness will never end. Yellow paint tastes like stars and daffodils when the world is black and white. I can paint the sun on a cloudy day. I can paint a smile on my face. I already knew I would die one day, but I never knew the sadness would truly last forever and that my heart has bled in every life. That was the first one. The second one is called Mitosis. That one's more of like a love poem, I suppose, to someone who's watching right now. Okay, so this is Mitosis. He pulls me beneath moth-colored sheets. We lie atop a broken clock, watching each other's dreams. As we slip away from the earth, the sun touches him. It caresses his brain, and I kiss his hollow skull. We melt into a single cell and divide into copies, and divide until there's nothing except for the vacuous space between us. He dims the saturation of the room, but I feel the warmth of monochrome eyes watching me undress. He traces my nervous system with slim fingers. I feel him running up my spine. It makes planets collide. He becomes the only color in a world enveloped in grayscale. There is warmth in my empty sheets when I feel his phantom touch lingering on my old, weathered skin. Sorry, Mom. Okay. The final poem I have for you is called Dinner for Two. That one is, I guess in my mind, I think it's a little funny. It's about female objectification by men. I don't know if anybody else will think it's funny. So this is Dinner for Two. Women belong in the kitchen, where men don their white coats. Blue veins wrap around a slender finger. Bake at 350 for 20 minutes, marinate in wine overnight for best results. Their dresses are discarded just in time for the appetizers. Hand of housewife, heart of whore, both served on porcelain platters swirling around the room. The merry-go-round won't stop until supper time ends. The main course consists of breast meat, thighs, and legs. With filthy lips slicked in sauce, men pick their teeth with the bones, crying out for seconds before the first one is gone. Yeah, that is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Emerson. Really love the kind of approach that you've taken to poetry. And for those who can't see it, it's alive on the page, the way she designs it too. So, and with some drawings as well, I might add. So thank you. She is the editor of the forthcoming Wayne Literary Review for this year, which will be out sometime by mid-April. So, all right, next up is Weem Numu. She's an Eric Hoffer award-winning author of 14 books. And I think right now, both myself and Zilka have our fingers crossed for that Hoffner thing. They're deciding them as we speak. But she's won before. She has 14 books, two-time international award-winning documentary filmmaker, poet, journalist, and the founder and president of Unique Voices in Film, which is a nonprofit. She's currently working on her first feature narrative, Pomegranate, in post-production. The script of Pomegranate was selected as a quarterfinalist by Francis Coppola's Zoetrope. Weem is the executive director of the Chaldean Cultural Center, which houses the world's first and only museum. Please welcome Weem Numu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amal, for hosting this, for inviting me. And my heart and prayers are with the Ukrainians and everyone affected by violence and war. As someone who was born in a war-torn country, I know the feeling of whether you are there or whether you are far away watching this happen. So thank you for this event and for honoring Women's History Month, which I'm gonna read from my novel, which was originally a script that was selected quarterfinalist by Francis Coppola Zoetrope. But because I love writing books, I went and wrote it into a novel. And I'm gonna read from it. It was published before we even started production. We started production last year. We're currently in post-production. Hopefully by the summer, by mid or late summer, the feature film will be completed. So this novel, I wrote it when there was so much chaos and miscommunication and happening during the 2016 elections. I saw people that I love from both sides of the aisle kind of going at each other misusing words, misusing the opportunity for us to enjoy democracy, which includes free speech and the ability to debate and to learn from that process. I also found, for years, I found that there was a void for women voices of Middle Eastern backgrounds. And so I wrote this story, which is, the film is going to be the first Iraqi American feature film, and it's led by women talent. So the main characters are women, their perspectives. I think that's much needed in the world today to help create some kind of maybe more of peace, hopefully. So this is chapter 1. One thing that I think that one of the reasons that I chose to read this is because the main character, Niran, is much inspired. She's a Muslim young girl that is much inspired by the first poet, recorded poet in history, Enheduanna, who was from ancient Iraq. She was a princess, she was a priestess, and she's the first recorded writer, not man or woman, but the first recorded writer in history who wrote poetry. And through her poetry, her position was to create peace between the different empires that her father was trying to bring together. Niran al-Mosawi stood in front of the mirror one gray morning in the middle of her simple and sparingly furnished bedroom. The light streaming in from a solitary window was unflattering, which she noticed while modeling her fashionable black chiffon hijab. At 20 years old, she was filled with determination and did not underestimate the symmetry of her curves, the fairness of her youthful skin and its subsequent glow, and the brilliance of her large hazel eyes, which, with no makeup, easily caught the attention of men and women. There was no need for modesty. A November 2016 calendar hung on the wall, with the first and second days marked off with big red X's. Next to her calendar were pictures of the Virgin Mary, Jesus, and Imam Hussein, all wearing headscarves, all of them somber and present, as if waiting for something to change. It never did. On the bookshelf attached to her pine marlet-colored bed were minimal but important selections on ancient Mesopotamia, Sumerian poetry, and a biography of the famed priestess Enheduanna, the first recorded writer in history. She would always glance at the titles when she woke up, as if involuntarily saying hello to them when the day began. Sitting on her bed, Niran closed and set aside a thick book on Babylonian history, her bookmark placed in the first quarter. She put on her headphones, pressed the screen on her iPhone to start an American song, and lay down on her bed, on her stomach, so she could write. She was moved by the remarkable voice of Gethin Christine, a local artist who poured her heart out through her lyrics. Gethin spoke of the holiest of lights in the darkest hours of hope, in the brightest times of dreams, in the dawn's waking light, in this sacred mystery. As the music faltered slow and drastic, Niran composed some poetry in her journal, stopping here and there to ruminate along the way. I am a rebel child. My body, my voice, don't tell me what to cover or what to leave exposed. Don't tell me what I need or how to wear my clothes. She held up her iPhone, pretending to record a video of a performance that was filled with utopian kingdoms and progressive, innovative lifestyle alternatives, intellectual realms, and mystical musings. She imagined it all in her mind, the thoughts creating images coming out of the corner of her mind, creating art as they manifested. She flew higher and higher in her head, leaving behind the people she lived with, her mother and father and her younger brother and sister, leaving behind her American city, nicknamed Little Baghdad due to its large Iraqi American population. At every corner, there was a family-owned produce market that had a tandoor that made a variety of Iraqi bread each morning, such as samoon and khubuz. It was like a homeland on an alien ground, an Iraqi within the States. There were ample Iraqi restaurants like Baghdad, Ishtar, and Jasmine Mediterranean Grill, and El Mazgouf, to name a few. There were the bakeries, Baghdad Tower Sweets and Farhat Sweets, and other businesses with English and Arabic signet lined up on the streets, selling delicious sweets and savories all year round. Sterling Heights sat on earth like a pebble on the moon, with branches of the Clinton River flowing through it. Its ranch-style suburban houses appeared to be built on the same plan, like dominoes stacked together in mediocrity, with the garage doors confronting the street with the attitude of old wisdom. Niran left it all behind, or at least she tried to, since most often, such as the present moment, she did not go very far and immersed herself into formulating words, wanting more than the cynical, critical, simpler existence. My parents wanted a boy, as they all do. Instead, they got a girl who has the heart and brain of 1,000 men, the extraordinary design of a warrior, the fearlessness of a jungle cat. Push me down and tell me I can't do it, and I will prove you wrong once again. My parents wanted a boy, as they all do. Instead, they got a warrioress. She imagined the thousands, maybe even millions of Facebook likes that she would one day receive. She continued to rehearse her thoughts and feelings through verbal gestures, gesticulating, creating, just with her mind, the way the Mesopotamian poet Enheduanna claimed her fame. Enheduanna was the first known author in the world because she decided to sign her name on her work, something that had never been done before. This made her hymns significant for centuries. Niran melted into those thoughts. She would be a poet, a performer, an entertainer, and she would move millions. Her constant "this will be me one day" view of herself grew as she continued to write. I don't identify myself with the people of this house. In the morning, I claim the title of a Judeo-Christian. By evening, that of a Shia Sufi Muslim. By night, I am free to fall asleep with the handsome shining sky without the labels the world wants to place upon me, while covered in God's countless blessings. Suddenly, the door burst open, startling her. She turned to see the sight of Ali, her tall and handsome younger brother, who had evidently been eavesdropping. It was an immature habit which made him, in Niran's opinion, resemble a prepubescent boy rather than a 19-year-old man. But then again, boys never grew up. They never had to. Wallah, your philosophy is very good, he said, leaning against the door frame, his iPhone attached to his hand like a tattoo. He smiled at her in an unsightly manner, unnerving her. Can I buy it on Amazon? Ali followed his comment up with hysterical laughter, which made Niran think of a hyena in the wilderness. She grabbed a pillow, threw it at him, and demanded that he get out. He laughed even harder as he closed the door, clearly unfazed. Typical of him, she stared at the door, disgusted at how fast she turned from a poetic priestess into an angry adolescent. If only she could escape from this world's time-worn traditions and transform her humdrum routine, then she could live out her cherished dreams and ideals. If only she could be free. Before she could return to her poetry, she heard her mother calling her name. She groaned out loud, her phone falling to the bed. The sound of Niran, Niran felt cumbersome because labor was often associated with it. Niran, do this, Niran, do that. Go here, go there, Niran, Niran, Niran. At times, her name no longer felt like it belonged to her. It was an annoying sound, repetitive and brash, like fingernails on a chalkboard. Niran placed her journal and pen on the bookshelf near her bed. She got up and undid her fashionable hijab to wear the house one, which was pink with brown hues, lightweight and more convenient to slip on and off. She often slept with it on and typically removed her hijabs on 2 major occasions, to take a shower or to brush her hair. She began to leave the room, but stopped for a moment to glance out of her front window. She could just see the outline of a house across the street that was almost identical to hers. She leaned forward to see the entrance. And I think I have, I'm just gonna read for just 2 more minutes and then I'll stop. Striding out of her front door was Mary, an elegant, long-haired, young Iraqi-American woman who was only a year older than Niran. Ready for work and fashionable clothes, she stepped up to a large classic blue robe Virgin Mary statue installed next to a Trump "Make America Great Again" sign. She kissed the Virgin's statue, made the sign of the cross, and headed to her car parked in the driveway. It also boldly displayed a Trump pen sticker. Niran glanced at her laptop over the bed and changed her mind. She would not oblige her mother just yet. There were better things to be done. She sat on the bed and stared at her Facebook page, bright and open for display. She typed words as she uttered them aloud in a poetic voice, getting back into the zone. There are always 2 Marys on this earth. One, the mother, the virgin, praised, revered, compared to doves and lilies in perfection. The other, the lover, the wanted, burdened with the weight of men's sins in the depths of their own guilt and desire. Thank you.
Weem, that's fabulous. Is that book at excuse me, is that book at BookBeat?
That book is available if you can purchase it from Amazon, and it's gonna, the audiobook is currently in production as well, and it will be available in May.
Okay.
And then the film, as I said, hopefully like this summer it'll be completed.
So hold the book up one more time. I want to see.
Oh, sure. Yes,
Looks
thank
pretty
you.
good. And I'll mention, yeah, isn't that very cool? Very cool. I mentioned, wanted to mention BookBeat. Usually Carrie and Colleen can order any book and get it pretty quickly. It's one of the few independent bookstores left. There's another one on Grand River that's pretty good too, but there aren't many. So if you can support them, but these books are widely available. And some I know are also available in ebook form. So, so you can be aware of that. All right. Thank you. Thanks so much. Next up is going to be a person who's visiting us from Birmingham, Alabama. She's really a fine poet. And you may not have met her before. I was introduced to Ashley through Nancy Nelson, who many people in the Metro Detroit scene know. She's out there somewhere. I know I can feel it. And Ashley M. Jones, she's the poet laureate for the state of Alabama from 2022 until 2026. So she's newly deemed the poet laureate. She holds an MFA in poetry from Florida International University. She is the author of Magic City Gospel, Hub City Press, 2017. That's a great title. Dark Thing in 2019, and Reparations on the Hub City Press 2021, which we were talking about before we went on the air. It's a really strong collection. Her poetry has earned several awards: the Rona Jaffe Foundation Writers Award, Silver Medal in the Independent Publishers Award, the Lena Mills Weaver Todd Prize for Poetry, a Literature Fellowship from the Alabama State Council, Lucille Clifton Poetry Prize, the Lucille Clifton Legacy Award. Lucille Clifton, great American poet. She was the finalist for the Ruth Lilly Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship in 2020, and her collection Reparation Now was on the long list for the 2022 Penn Volker Award for Poetry. Her works appeared all over. A couple that caught my eye here. One is poetry. I've been trying to get into poetry since I was 14, maybe one of these days. But anyway, she's been in poetry, the Oxford American, Obsidian, which my friend founded, the great Alvin O'Bear. And Alvin has since passed away, but he worked with us at Wayne State, and he actually edited his Obsidian out of there for many years. She teaches creative writing at Alabama School of Fine Arts and a low residency MFA at Converse University. Jones co-directs Penn Birmingham, and she is the founding director of, and I love the fact that Birmingham calls itself the Magic City. You know, I just think of Sun Ra every time I think of that. She's co-directs the Penn Birmingham, and she is the founding director of Magic City Poetry Festival. She recently served as a guest editor for Poetry Magazine. How about that? Zilka's been in Poetry Magazine before. Please welcome Ashley M. Jones from Alabama. Thanks.
Thank you, ML, for having me and for hosting this reading. Really glad to be reading with everyone here. And I will go ahead and start. I'm going to read 3 poems today. The first one is from my first book, Magic City Gospel. And since it's Women's Month, Women's History Month, I wanted to read poems that centered women. So this first one finds me reimagining the Virgin Mary, kind of an interesting tie-in to Weems' piece that she just read. But it finds me imagining the Virgin Mary as women in my family. I'm someone who really enjoys when deities are seen as people of color. And that has a lot to do with the way I was raised. You know, my parents made sure that we knew that being Black was nothing to be ashamed of, and that we could see Blackness anywhere, including in the gods or God that we worshiped. So this poem reimagines the Virgin Mary as several women in my family. Virgin Mary reimagined as my paternal grandmother, head adorned in blue-gray curls, nestled in the gold wool of her easy chair. She cannot walk without help, ankles swollen with our pain, square, heavy glasses to magnify her God-stained eyes. As my cancer-stricken aunt, the light of her sick room, a silvery blue, her row of concave teeth shining in the shadow of the IV pole, full cheeks prevailing despite the tender sickness in her ovaries. Her string of breathy jokes defy the finite sound of her golden voice. As my maternal grandmother, her hands stained and cracking from the wash water, her shoulders sturdy, yoked for rearing. She is a powerful shield for all her daughters, one's birthed and one's found. A psalm edges out of her small brown mouth, grace whole and white in her overflowing smile, dotted with gold precious teeth. As my blind aunt, the loud television in her blue-black bedroom, the sweets tucked like children in her cheeks, a cross of light gleams in her searching eyes. She answers our prayers in playing cards, Savior Spade, King, Queen, Jack of our Jesus. As a mirror, our wombs clean and soft and blue, our eyes the color of holy magic. We dream of the taste of our own merciful milk. It flows whisper white into God's open mouth. Thanks. We're going to jump to reparations now. And this poem that I'm going to read, let me see what page it's on, was actually a poem that was commissioned by Garden and Gun magazine, which is an unusual magazine for me to be associated with, honestly, because it's not exactly my aesthetic. If you don't know Garden and Gun, it's a publication that's like very Southern and very like, I don't know, I can't think of a really polite way to describe what I thought of that magazine before, but it's kind of, you know, what you would think of when you think of traditional Southern, I'll say it that way. And so they happen to be doing a book about Southern women They were partnered up with HarperCollins, and I received an email from the editor, and she was really excited for me to write. And I asked her multiple times, like, do you know what kind of poetry I write? Like, I don't know if I'm perfect for a Garden and Gun, but it turns out they were trying to paint a more inclusive picture of Southern women. So I wrote a golden shovel about my grandmothers and the place that Black women hold in the founding of this nation and the sustaining of this nation and the future of this nation. Really, everywhere you look, Black women have had a hand in every single thing. So this is a golden shovel, and the poem that I used as the origin, if you don't know what a golden shovel is, it's a poetry form which was invented by Terrence Hayes, who's a great American poet. It came out in his 2010 book, Lighthead. His poem is called The Golden Shovel. And in The Golden Shovel, you take a poem, he based his off of We Real Cool by Gwendolyn Brooks, but you can take any poem, and in your golden shovel, the end words of your poem, all of the lines, the end words in each line spell out or create the origin poem. So if you read along the entire right margin of any golden shovel, or up the left if you have a double golden shovel, as is the case with anything with Patricia Smith's double golden shovel, you will read the entirety of that origin poem. So my origin poem is a poem called Black Women by Lucille Clifton. Clifton, as you heard in my bio, means a lot to me. She's my favorite poet. I feel like she's my patron saint in some ways. But her poem talked about Black women and the way that we've had to survive. And this poem does a similar thing. I cannot talk about the South without talking about Black women. My grandmothers made America, made the fibers that made us warm, made us invincible, heroines. To tell you who they are, I must start with who they are not. Servants, kitchen-bound mammies, silently obedient wives. We can't, in our modern comforts, imagine the survival they learned was theirs to claim. Can't hold the light they burned through this colonial darkness. What tricks this nation, this American South pulled minute by minute to keep my grandmothers convinced. The body you're in is not enough. Your race and your gender work together to mark you less, to mark you takeable. But what they didn't know was that my grandmothers still had an unmovable strength, enough to build a bridge from here to heaven. I know when I leave this broken earth, I'll find them there, sweetening every hour. My grandmothers raised a generation of American men. There is no other way to say this. Look at any Southern family and you'll find somewhere in a past most will not claim a Black woman. These men who call themselves bootstrapping and self-made, somewhere there's a Black woman and her unthanked hands who lifted them to where they are now. My father tells a story of the sons of his grandmother's employers, how they, instead of the pension she was promised, decided to give her a damned old tire, an old suitcase, dusty in the yard. What thanks is this for the years she raised that family, for the care they cannot forget? My father could never forgive those men, their Southern tradition, their American tradition. Even now, they tell us Black women are going to save this whole nation with votes or magic or our style taken and renamed. But this is no longer the land of masses and mammies, and we are only superheroines for our own daughters and sons. My grandmothers did not give their lives for me to keep nursing this country, to keep shucking and jiving in a bizarro American dream. My grandmothers are worth more than this corrupt remembering. Now there is no room for the Dixieland lie. We no longer hold these truths you made us accept. Under God, yes, we hear him singing a song of powerful love, despite the united hate of America. grandmothers, women made of salt and spirit, you are faith continuous. Continue us, raise us to be heroes and heroines, to tell this country that we are not mules, not beasts. You, an army of workers and wives, we hid our fears and woes in your indestructible, ever-present ladiness. The blood you pass down to us is all we will ever need to save our lives. All right, and we have made it to the last poem that I'm going to read today. This poem is also about Black women. I write a lot about my own people, and I do think that celebrating oneself does make way for others to celebrate themselves. So many people think, in fact, fun story, the last poem that I read was featured on Garden and Gun's social media year before last in 2020 for International Women's Day. And there were some comments before they shut down commenting that came in, and people were very annoyed and angry that I was talking about Black women and celebrating Black women. And their responses were, "This is Women's Day. It's for all women." And I'm like, yeah, including Black women. It's fine, for me to specify who it is I'm celebrating. I am Black. I'm proud of that. I think all of us should be proud of who we are. So anyway, this poem is doing that thing, celebrating me and my people very specifically. And it sort of is a reaction poem. It's an affirmation poem as well. Growing up as a Black woman in America, there have been always so many conditions put on my lovability or worthiness in all kinds of ways. I mean, of course, the bigger things like people saying things they shouldn't, like someone telling me I would be so pretty if I just straightened my hair, all the way to, just trying to buy makeup and seeing one brown, and wondering, where am I? All of us can't fit in this one bottle. So this poem is sort of affirming what has always been true. And it's called, "It is entirely possible for a Black girl to be loved." See me, Black as I am, and call me beautiful. No revolution necessary, no brave needed, just loving me. It is not unusual to love me, Black as I am. It is not because I'm so strong, so exotic, so walk on the wild side. What side? See my skin. It's not chocolate or coffee or caramel. It is inedible. It is nothing to see with colonizers' eyes, nothing to trap with pity or praise, nothing to bruise, to make purple with your power. My skin is soft like anything soft. It is a reflection of God. It is a heavenly mirror. Don't you see that? You're there too. Black as I am, I can shine anything back. Even the sun wants to cling to me. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Whenever life returns to normal, should be maybe in at least 10 years, you got to come up to Detroit in person. Yeah, because you normally travel, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I'm back on the road now, cautiously, but yes, one day I hope to land in Detroit.
Well, we will welcome you for sure. Thank you. Ashley M. Jones, Reparations Now, highly recommended. I'm hoping that it was nominated also with Ishmael Reed's organizations, various ones out in Oakland, California, the Before Columbus Award, and let's see, what are we in right now? Yeah, we should talk. That's something you should definitely know about. I think they would really appreciate your work, and I know many of those folks out there. A part of that. Ishmael founded it though. Okay, thank you, Ashley. Magic City. That's happening. All right, our final reader today is Monica Rico. Now, I don't know if this is true, Monica, but it seems like when I first met you, you had to be like a teenager in high school or something. Is that right? Okay. Well, I was very young too, so it wasn't like, you know, God, yeah. So she's from Saginaw. That's where I met her many years ago. She was writing really good poetry then, and she just continued to nurture her work. And you know, she's quite established herself. But here's something about her for those who don't know her. And also Carlos Compiano is, God, like my brother from another mother in Chicago. Carlos also, as it turned out, knew you, and you know, then I knew you and he knew you. And Carlos is going to be on, and maybe we can do it in person at the end of May. We're going to do the living room series. It's supposed to be online, but if it can go outside, I want Carlos to come in, and his wife Cynthia and myself and Sharon Messer. We all kind of started in Chicago at the same time. So we wanted to do a reunion of sorts of old friends. I mean, new young friends. Anyway, Monica Rico, Mexican-American, Canto Mundo Fellow, Macandista, and Hopwood Graduate Poetry Award winner. Grew up in Saginaw. She holds an MFA from the University of Michigan. I guess that's the Zell program. Is that what HZ? All you hipsters up there. She holds an MFA from the University of Michigan's program, as I mentioned. She's a program manager for Bear River Writers Conference. Her poems have appeared in Poetry Northwest, Feature Life List, Beloy Poetry Journal, The Nation, right on, Poet Lore out of DC, great, Witness, the Missouri Review, the Museum of Americana Gastromica. I know it has something to do with eating. Frontier, Rupture, Waxwing, Easy Daily. The list, Black Warrior Review, goes on and on. Split This Rock, great organization and publication. Her manuscript, Pinion, is the winner of the 2021 Four-Way Books Levis Poetry Prize, selected by Kavan Akbar. She is at Monica Rico Poet. Look her up. She's really just accomplishing so many things, and the new book on Four-Way is incredible. Is that 2022?
It's 2023.
Oh, it's coming. Okay, let's touch base on that too. Okay, so please welcome back. She was live when people used to go out and see people live read, but now she's here with us on the Zoom machine. Let me go put a little more gasoline in it so it will carry on till the end of the program. Here is Monica Rico.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you and to hear your lovely work. It's an honor, especially in honor of women's history. I'm going to read part of a sequence from my book, Pinion. These poems are about my grandmother, who was a very complicated woman, and I feel that she passed away like 15 years ago, and this is my way of trying to connect with her. In the presence of the robin. Her throne is plywood and nails. Too many shoes and housecoat cover her face, like the mantilla of the Spanish doll, as decorative as it doesn't belong. The lace of her skirt, a stiff pink, smells like radish and the sticky decay of carpet. If I can invent a god, I want the head of a vulture. Beneath each feather, a knife. I heard what they say about Mexicans. When it rains, leaf and blossom sprout from our cars. The metal unchanged and bright like a tooth. The taste of how I got here is magic only to me, like the bowl of buttered Brussels sprouts my grandmother kept on her table, spoonfuls of the green crowns she once wore. Behind the back of the robin. Even in the city, the cicadas are heavy with song, and I am too young to call a bird anything but red. What do I name this when the sun enters my head? I'm afraid the flowers are blooming again. When my grandmother feeds my father, I know to sit still. A girl at my school eats ants. She snaps off their heads and says they taste like candy. And it doesn't scare me like my grandmother does. I can't look at her or the doll she sewed me without arms. When she leaves the kitchen, my father lets me eat. The sting of menudo, sharp, listening for the sound of her to return like a curse. Feeding rituals. Robins, unlike my grandmother, return to Mexico. Instead, she divides flour, egg wash, and cornmeal into bowls. Lemon cut, and bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts. There is no way I will pray to a man or let him eat first. A catfish can live outside of water for hours. She tugs the flesh free and feasts completely by herself, its body a twitch of nerves. Afternoon is a flash underneath the black of her comal. I won't dare open my hand, another gaping mouth. Robin, Puripecha Guadalupana. 1. Family. Slick fish stunned and head thwacked. The eyes a magnet with scales like laces, one ripe avocado. 2. Description. A bird, mostly belly, toothpicks for legs, always the dull feathers of the females. Look closely. The cluster of white glacier on the eye stings fingertips long after they've removed seeds from a chile. 3. Songs and calls. With or without a sister, but not without light. One small shift and the strike of her splits the skin. 4. Range. Michoacan, misplaced in Michigan. A grito dances mid-air, spins its skirt, hem loose, the string an almost forest. 5. Nesting and breeding. Speckled jewel on the train north, hidden like a bad tooth in a fan of a smile. Turquoise, not blue, the black ink of a love letter scratching against the sky. She will build and vanish lineage of who looks like who. 6. Feeding behavior. The ground, a full mouth after rain. A pulse of her bends daylight and stomps, sharpening her nails on every stone. So I was just kind of surprised at how related all of our work is in some of the topics that we've been reading, and that's just kind of exciting. It's almost like we pre-planned the work that we were going to share, and I find that so fantastic and wonderful. This last poem that I'm going to read is also a ghazal, and it's something that my grandmother always said to me. And when I was younger, I thought that I annoyed her and that she just found me irritating. But As an adult, I think that I amused her in some way, and this is why she said it to me. Get out of my house. Almost morning, she sings with her sister, who says she never visits enough. I want her like this, a little drunk, laughing. My father didn't sleep last night. He pictured her hidden in the folds of her apron. Come tus chicharros. Two portraits hung in her living room, La Virgen de Guadalupe and her son. Young, I worshiped them. It wasn't a joke when she kicked me out of her house, gone like the piece of chocolate cake she ate quickly. I know better now why she hides her face from the tree whose branches she broke. Monica. Thank you.
Oh man. Wow, Saginaw. Now I heard that Monica was going to have to arm wrestle the ghost of Theodore Redke, but yeah, she's going to kick his ass. I can tell. Monica, Rico from Saginaw. Want to thank you guys for coming, and those watching. We will get a YouTube link for this very quickly, and on Facebook, there might have been some problem with that. I'm going to fix that. We're going to go, we're going to take a little break here, and then we're going to another, either on my Facebook, other Facebook channels, or as Zoom on another link. We're going to start this poetry vigil for Ukraine. It's more of a consciousness raising thing, but also money. The Red Cross we have represented, and others there that you can contribute to, and many of you probably have been doing that. So and to continue doing it, because I think it's making some difference out there. It's in a horrible situation. So that's where we're going to go. I want to thank poets and writers in a major way for helping to sponsor many of the poets here, and the Detroit Writers Guild. The Detroit Writers Guild can be found at dwguild.org and on Facebook. It's an organization that I head up. It's been in Detroit since 1983, when Miss Peggy Moore started it as a community program, and it's grown into a major program over the years. So thank you all. Thanks. And if you want to join us, anybody out there, go to the Facebook or email me, and I'll send you a link if you want to be in the Zoom room audience, clapping and cheering. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to Zilka, to Emerson, to Monica, to Ashley, and Ween. Thanks. Support these folks. Buy their books. See ya.